the mayor of Wieliczka looks out ruefully on what ought to be a hospital nearing completion.
The hospital facility is supposed to be built right here, then a rehabilitation centre behind that building over there, and where we're standing now should be a training centre.
What is being built is only a small part of what is planned. For the rest, the town was counting on money from the European Union's post-COVID recovery fund and had applied to the government for a share of it.
The minister wrote, "Good project, let's move ahead with it." But since then, silence. Everything is on hold because the reconstruction plan in Poland is not being implemented. Of course, this is because of the rule of law issue and the withholding of funds because of the European Court's ruling.
Wieliczka, like almost all Polish towns, has made great use of EU funds. They paid for buses, a new station, a library, and the restoration of the town's salt mine, a major tourist attraction. If the funds stop flowing, the reason, partly at least, is to be found at Poland's Supreme Court. In 2018, a new disciplinary chamber was created here to punish judges deemed to have acted unlawfully.
We support the Justice Minister's appeal against the regional court decision.
And who judges the judges? In short, judges appointed by the ruling party, hostile to those who oppose its judicial reforms. A threat to impartiality and a breach of European law, ruled the EU's Court of Justice, which ordered Poland to suspend the chamber's operations. It hasn't.
Today, they were to consider a case against Włodzimierz Wróbel, the true moral and symbolic leader of this Supreme Court.
Today, these lawyers are celebrating a small victory. The European Court of Human Rights ruled that the hearing should not go ahead.
Never before has the European Human Rights Court gone so far when ruling on cases like this. Normally, such urgent measures are taken only in exceptional cases, such as when someone's life or health is in danger.
For these campaigning lawyers, it is the life of Polish democracy that's in danger.
If the government succeeds in reshaping the Supreme Court the way it wants to, that would complete the establishment of an authoritarian system in Poland. It won't be a democracy anymore.
I think that Polish people now see that we are on a collision course with the European Union, because the reconstruction fund money is still not coming, and I see the heroic stance of those judges who are resisting the reforms as the last chance to save the justice system, because our citizens want to be in the EU.
The Polish government simply denies there is any problem, as do the pro-government judges appointed to the Supreme Court since the reform started.
The Polish judiciary is always interested in applying the law and respecting constitutional, and that means also European, standards.
Stępkowski says that the rebel judges are simply trying to preserve their own power, and that the EU institutions that have so sternly criticised the Polish judicial reforms are packed with friends of those rebel Polish judges.
When a friend calls you from another country and says he's being wronged, you tend to believe that friend. I haven't encountered a situation in which, when considering complaints about the Polish justice system, any foreign institution actually asked the Supreme Court to check on those accusations.
So you doubt these people's professionalism, basically?
Yes.
Włodzimierz Wróbel, the Supreme Court judge who was to have been up before the disciplinary chamber last week, is all too familiar with the authorities' portrayal of rebel judges as a self-interested caste. He rejects it out of hand.
It is against our personal self-interest to risk losing half our salaries, being suspended and barred from hearing cases, to become a public enemy and an object of hate for state propaganda.
But he says it's a question of professional ethics to abide by the law rather than accepting reforms that violate the law, and a duty to fellow Europeans to speak out about it.
The principles of the rule of law must be universal. That's why we can't tolerate this. One must pay attention. Sooner or later, this authoritarianism could come knocking on the door in Portugal, Spain, Italy, or any other country.
Judge Wróbel studied and now teaches at Krakow's Jagiellonian University, a bastion of liberal thinking during the communist era, ideas that triumphed in 1989 when democracy returned to Poland. But he says he saw this coming.
We've had such a brief experience of democracy, so even though I call it an authoritarian state, I still think that what's happening now is a sort of growth process, like that moment when a teenager has to go through a wild phase in order to become a full-fledged adult.
That same day, judges and sympathizers demonstrated in Kraków against the suspension of yet another protesting judge in a regional court in northern Poland. Those seeking justice in cases that she was presiding over will now have to wait, just as Poland still waits for the EU billions to start flowing again.